February 23rd, 2008, and we are at the Talley Day County Park at the Brandywine Branch County Library on Foulk Road in Brandywine Hundred. My name is County Councilman Bob Weiner, and I have put together an array of Brandywine Hundred's first families, our historic families that comprise our community. We are a community of 84,000 people, the first suburban area which was extended after Wilmington was first settled. In 1905 was our first plat, and that was over in Gordon Heights, and we've continued to grow ever since then. Brandywine Hundred is one of 10 hundreds in Newcastle County. Each of the counties have 10 hundreds, but we're the only 100 that really continues to have a sense of identity. You may not say you're from Appoquinimink 100 or Christiana 100, but you certainly say, I'm from Brandywine 100. And with a population of 84,000 people, we actually have more people than in the city of Wilmington, which has only 71,000 people. And a lot of times we get ignored in terms of our proud history. Well, with that in mind, we've put together an array of families, but many of you also are just as valuable in terms of being here, and if we could fit a table that had 80 people across the front, then we could do that. But obviously we can't do that in the time that we have. We've set aside 90 minutes, which we might or might not extend, to talk about the history of this area. When I first thought of this concept, one of my secretaries in my law office, Sharon Day Lynch, and I, who have known each other since the 70s, said, Bob, the D stands for Day, and my dad, John Day, or Jack Day, would like to talk to you about the history of the farmhouse which sat where the soccer fields are, and talk about the Day Talley house, and the Day Talley farms, and the connection between the history of this area and these families. And I said, well, as I shared the information with others, I found out, of course, we also have the history of Ewald Streed and the Streed Farm, which is also part of this county park. And there's also the history, of course, many of the kids here went to the original Forwood School, which still exists, and the Forwood family, of course, is part of our heritage. And going up Foulk Road, of course, we have the Lintons and the Websters, and then we have the Hanbys and the Grubbs and the many, many historic families that are in this area. So we have a few of those families that are going to speak today. Now, I'm just going to say that because it's more interesting to talk in terms of stories, we haven't had a really chance to talk about that. It's better rather than who begot who, and go through a whole genealogical history. It'd be better simply to talk about some stories, much like Jack had done. And I'm going to try to share the opportunity for conversation amongst the folks here, so I'm going to act as your moderator. A lot of this information will be posted on a website, which is my name, bobweiner.com. That's B-O-B-W-E-I-N-E-R. And so you'll be able to go and catch a lot of the history. We do have a videographer, as you know, who's making a video which will be available for archival research here in the library, or you can purchase a copy for $5, as you know. Additionally, we have some representatives from the press. The news journalists here, and the community news is here, and Delaforum is here, and we appreciate your participation in this historic event. And now I'd like to start with the first of the Brandywine Hundred's families, Jack Day. Jack, are you ready to begin your comments? I see you're still taking notes.
I hope so.
Oh, and by the way, there are a few items over here after the meeting that I'd like you to take a look at. This is the Beers Atlas from the 1800s that talks about the landowners in this area, and a lot of the names are still the same.
1868.
1868, Mr. Day's family's there. And then there's another map from the 1920s that also you'll see the same families. And then I have a picture here as well of maybe 8 years ago of the Talley Day County Park before the library was built. I sat in as part of a committee trying to decide where the library should go. And I pushed hard that the library should be here in this park. I thought it would work well for that symbiotic relationship, and I think it has worked well. We're here today in a county library. Before we start with Jack, however, there is a gentleman and representative from the county by the name of John Husband. And I always thought he was the historic husband, but he's not. Is John Husband here? I saw him earlier. John, would you please come forward? And because I'd like you to just put a little bit on history about what's going on here. And then also I'd like to thank Tom.
Lose my chair.
Someone save his chair. And I also like to introduce Tom Talley, who is our librarian. Tom, thank you for hosting us today. Weaver. Tom Weaver. You look alike. This is Tom Weaver. And now why don't we just go through and introduce the people at the front table. You are?
I'm Andy Talley.
Okay.
Tom Bullen.
John Jack Day.
James Hanby.
Garrett Gunther.
Suzanne Magness, representing the Weldon and the Talley families.
Great. And now, John, if you'd come center stage because of the camera, and simply provide a little bit of chronicling a history of how Newcastle County ended up with the precious treasure of the Talley and Day and the street farm.
Sure.
Right.